everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Risk Matrix with myself, Dr. Martin, and Mr. James Junkin. Roll Tide.
It's cold in the South. It is snowpocalypse happening right now as we're filming this episode. There's terror in the streets. There's something white falling from the sky. The only thing we got down here is white sandy beaches, and now we got snow on the beach.
Well, Mr. James, I'm just short of Maine, in the Northeast, and I've got no sympathy for you. We got 4 inches of the fluffy today, and it's cold, but people are out. They're moving around. They're going to school, doing all the stuff they usually do. So I don't have any sympathy for you.
We are
I
sheltering
apologize.
in place because we're not prepared for any snow. None. So south of I-10, we never get snow, right? Never. But now,
Never say never.
everybody above us that normally gets snow, they're not getting anything. We're going to get it all dumped on us, which, be a lot of fun, a lot of kids. Snow can be fun. A lot of people like that. But today, maybe we can talk a little bit about, overlooked wintertime hazards, things of that nature, just to remind us all, but especially those of us that are not used to dealing with wintry weather.
Right. So, James, pictures or it didn't happen. So I want to see the snow falling. And I don't want it penciled in. I don't want Photoshop. I don't want any of that. But like Mr. James says, we're going to talk today about top winter hazards in the workplace, in your home, around town, etc. But before we do that, we're going to have a word from our sponsor. Everybody knows we're powered by Veriforce. But every week we have a special sponsor, so let's take a second for that.
The Safety on the Edge Conference is a premier event that brings together academia, industry leaders, safety professionals, regulatory agencies, and experts to discuss and promote the latest advancements in safety technology, models, and best practices. The Safety on the Edge Conference is proud to sponsor Veriforce's Risk Matrix.
Veriforce is proud to announce the latest version of our Safeland USA accredited course called Basic Orientation 7.0. This is our flagship course that has been taken by over 1.6 million students nationwide. The newest version of this course is shorter than the last version, with condensed training and updated multimedia, but it still includes the same topics as previous courses. As always, the Safeland orientation remains with this employee through the career. It eliminates the redundancy of multiple orientations, and it stores all the training records in a single centralized database for everyone to use. Also, we offer 2 solutions for getting the training. You can either seek out Safeland training from one of our third-party providers, or you can send one of your instructors through our Train the Trainer program to teach your own employees. If you're interested in learning more, please contact our training sales department at 888-482-9101. That's 888-482-9101, or you can email us at trainingsales@veriforce.com.
All right, welcome back. And I'm going to have Mr. James start us off with number one on his list of things to look out for in the wintertime and the cold weather.
Well, the first thing I want to do is give a shout out to Alan Ferguson. This idea was not unique to me, and a lot on this list. Some are in collaboration with you, Dr. Martin, but the first 5 come from Alan Ferguson's article, The 5 Most Overlooked Wintertime Hazards. A lot of people have to work outside, regardless of the weather. Particularly, I'm thankful for all of the utility and power line crews, linemen that will be out as we begin to lose power during this snow apocalypse. So Alan Ferguson, he wrote this article, like I said, in January 2025's issue of Safety and Health, to highlight the various hazards that fly really under the radar during the winter months. So I encourage you, if you don't get Safety and Health magazines, try to sign up for it. It's a free publication. It comes in every month. But this January 2025 issue I thought Alan Ferguson did a really, really good job of talking about the 5 overlooked winter hazards. And today, let's talk about the top 10 most overlooked winter hazards. Number 1 on his list and our list is something that most people don't think of in the winter, and that's dehydration. Dehydration. You know, dehydration, summertime, about time we ended the late spring and get into June, July, there's going to be articles and heat stress, and all that's important. And we'll be talking about the dangers of dehydration, et cetera. But that can be really overlooked, Dr. Martin, in these winter months. Dehydration, number 1 on the list.
Well, we need to remember, and I think a lot of people don't realize that there's still an exchange of when you breathe and you're outside working hard, you're still using the energy and the fuel that you put in the body, same as hydration. So, you know, just keep in mind the same thing happened in the winter as doing the summer, because your body's still working, and in a lot of cases, it's working a lot harder to combat against, you know, they're not wearing big winter coats like Mr. James is today. Or they are wearing big winter coats and they're working hard and they're losing water by sweating and respiratory processes, etc. So yes, dehydration, number 1. Let's go to number 2.
Number 2, UV rays. UV rays. Now, somebody that's on the water a lot, you know, I live on the Gulf Coast for a reason, because I love the ocean, love the water. But UV rays, normally we associate that with what? Summertime, right? We put our summertime shades on. We got our Ray-Bans. We got, you know, our coasters. I love my coasters. Some people like Maui Jims. They look really cool. Summertime sun, etc. But, you know, the wintertime, the sun may appear weaker, but you're still getting UV rays. And just because it's cloudy out doesn't mean you're not being exposed to these UV rays. So whether I'm an individual or I'm a safety professional, particularly if you're working in an area with a lot of snow where you've got that reflectivity from the sun coming back, you're working at higher elevations, things of that nature, you might want to go ahead and plan to have some type of eye protection that includes UV protection from sunlight.
Sunscreen.
Yeah.
And also cover up, right? So if you think about the people who go skiing this time of year, not where you live, but where I live, they have UV protective goggles. We use face protection. We cover up. Anything that you can cover up, you should cover up. And if you don't, it's the same as in the summertime. You should be wearing some type of sunscreen.
Which,
number 3.
Most people, I would say, issue sunscreen for the summer months. But again, these are the ones that are overlooked. You know, I'm gonna throw this in here because we think about sunburn. Windburn is awful. It is awful. I got windburned up in North Dakota a few years ago, where they just laugh at what we're having. I mean, I got a message today, and it's minus 30 with a wind chill of 50 below, and they're like, "Hey, it's 25 in New Orleans." That's like a spring day here in North Dakota. But I was up there one year. We're working outside. Of course, we were on H2S sites, so I had to be clean shaven, and I did not have the face protection necessary, and that wind burn is terrible, terrible, and aches. You're just laughing at me.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll my eyes now. Number 3, James. Number 3.
All right, carbon monoxide. You know, this was on the list in safety and health, but it really came to mind as we're preparing for this snow apocalypse that's about to hit Louisiana. Now, we do floods, we do hurricanes like a boss. Okay, there is nobody better since Hurricane Katrina about getting prepared for hurricanes at the individual level. You know, residents around here are getting their generators fired up. They do maintenance on them in June. They stockpile food and water. They've got emergency plans. They've got emergency medication. They've got how they're going to take care of their neighbors. They're ready to shelter in place for sometimes days, if not weeks at a time. Right? But now we've got this snow apocalypse coming. And I heard people firing up their generators to prepare for the subsequent power outages we're likely to have. Generators equals what?
Carbon
Carbon,
monoxide.
right?
And also, let's not forget those vehicles, right? I talked to you this morning and you had your vehicles running. And if you have them running, I mean, a lot of people know not to leave them running in their garage, right? I mean, hopefully most people know that, right? But if you run equipment near your garage, you pull that generator out in the onto the driveway, and because some people don't have whole house generators, they pull it out, they plug it in, they have it in the driveway, it's generating carbon monoxide. That can come back up into the house. And I actually had this happen once when I was operating my snowblower. Fired it up, was letting it run a little bit before I got it going, but it was just outside the garage door and it set off the carbon monoxide alarm in my house. So, remember the near proximity things too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you what we'll see around here. Somebody's going to end up going to the hospital, and probably some people are going to die. All right. Number one, they bring the generators inside the house because it's cold outside. That's a big no-no. Number two, they want to go warm up their car inside their garage. Yep. So they go into the garage space, they start up their vehicles, they let it run, they sit in there, and thankfully a lot of these newer vehicles will shut off after a period of time of inactivity. But some of the older vehicles don't. This morning in my barn, I left my vet running, and it'd still be running if I didn't go out there and turn it off. So if you're in an enclosed space, make sure you open it up. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, a little bit. Hey, cold is bad. Nobody likes the cold. I'm a beach guy, right? But I've got to go out there and let some of that ventilate. Now, other things that are a particular concern, no matter where you live, but especially where we are. Saturday it was 70 degrees here. That's winter in the South. Okay. It gets down to 50, sometimes the 30s at night, 65, 55, or whatever. But all of a sudden, for the first time this season, a lot of people are going to be firing up their fireplaces, their extra heaters that they have, furnaces, maybe some businesses are lighting boilers for the first time. So if you've not maintained those systems, or this is the first time you've lit these systems off this year, hey, you've got a potential to have those vents or flues become blocked and potentially back carbon monoxide up into your house. Now, they're talking, I know this is hilarious to you, Dr. Mark, because you're a cold weather guru. You live almost in Canada, right? You're in New Hampshire.
Almost.
Snow accumulation does not happen here, but our areas are going to get 6 to 8 inches of snow. Now, like I said, we're not used to that. Snow can accumulate and block those vents or flues due to snow buildup, right? And that can happen in any part of the country, but y'all are used to dealing with this and probably take steps to prevent that from happening. Here, that can back up carbon monoxide into your house. So let's talk about some symptoms, because it's a silent killer, right? Every home, every business should be equipped with a carbon monoxide alarm. But many homes are not, particularly down our way. So what are some symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning?
Headache.
It's almost like you're having the flu, headaches, dizziness, confusion, nausea. If you start to feel that way,
go to sleep.
Yep.
Fatigue.
If you start feeling that way, you need to
ventilate.
We call stop the job, right? You need to make some changes, open up some doors, see what's going on. But it's always good to have a carbon monoxide detector in key areas of your house, like where you sleep, in the hallway, just like the fire alarm, so it can alert you. Okay, you can.
Ready for number 4?
Yep. You know what it is? This one comes up all the time in the oil and gas business. Improper laying of FR clothing and AR clothing, right? So what do we tell people to do to keep warm in the winter?
Layer up, baby.
Layer up, right? Layer up. So here, we're not used to this kind of weather. Normally, I'm not wearing this big North Face burqa. If I wore this normally in the wintertime, even especially inside, but even outside, I'd be sweating down, getting that dehydration going on, right? But now all of a sudden, we got to break out jackets and things that we don't normally wear. Well, if I'm working in an area that requires FR or AR, there is a tendency to want to put this on over our FR clothing, which does what?
And does not, it actually negates the effects of the FR clothing, right? So the FR clothing goes on the outside of any layering that you're going to do. So, if you're expecting cold weather, and you usually wear lighter FR in the summer, or you might want to get some bigger FR coveralls or whatnot for the winter time, so that you can put your layers underneath. Preferably, you're gonna wear as much FR clothing as you can, but you're gonna wear the other.
Exactly. Your outermost layer needs to be FR.
Got number 5, James?
Number 5, cold's impact on self-retracting lifelines. Cold's impact on self-retracting lifelines. Now, you wouldn't think that cold would have such an impact on such a life-saving device, but the effectiveness of these self-retracting lifelines can be compromised by cold temperatures, which we normally find in the winter months. So it's vital for us as safety professionals and for the workers who are going to be using these devices to understand how cold weather affects the functionality of self-retracting lifelines, and to make sure we're implementing proper safety practices accordingly, because nothing would be worse than to have all this protection and feel like you are protected, then have a fall and the thing come apart and somebody get seriously injured and killed.
So let me just interject something there, James. So a little bit about the science behind it, right? Metals contract and expand depending on the heat or cold they're exposed to. That's number one. The other thing is, for example, in your neck of the woods, if you're expecting snow and ice and freezing rain, etc., that stuff can build up on lanyards, on parts of self-retracting lifelines. It doesn't usually do, so we got to make sure you do the proper checks and balances of things before, during, and after use.
So make sure you understand where you're storing stuff. And I'm going to throw this in there with the self-retracting lifeline. Your full body harnesses, right? If you're throwing them in the back of the pickup truck, they're laying there exposed to this cold, exposed to the UV rays we're talking about. That can affect the equipment's ability to perform as designed by the manufacturer. So make sure you got a good inspection process in place. But included with that should be, hey, are we storing this in a dry, warm, kind of climate-controlled area when we're not having it in use? So, regular inspections are a must. And look for those visible signs of wear, damage, malfunction as we get into these particular colder months.
Next one
should be number 1. We run through this every year. Now, I know I complain about it being cold because I hate the cold, but we do work in North Dakota. So I've been cold, and I do not like it at all. Is that abundantly clear? Do we need to have
I don't think most people like being cold.
Okay. Slips, trips, and falls in the cold. If you're working in inclement weather where you have snow and ice and eventually you have to go to work, like right now, we're going to shut down for 3 days and the whole state's going to shut down. But there's some regions of the country, it's just going to be like this every day. It's going to be like this every day until spring, right? So you've got to account for slippery surfaces, ice, snow, slickness, things of that nature, outside and inside. Because what do people do? They come from the outside with the snow and the ice and the wet, and they bring it inside where it's climate controlled, and now that becomes water. People slip and fall down. So, the science behind slipping is pretty straightforward, right? When you walk on an icy surface, the friction between the footwear and the ground decreases. So what we try to do in North Dakota and some of the places we work in extreme cold is to make sure we've got the right footwear, our people in the right footwear to help them when it comes to their footing. Particularly, if there's snow accumulation, a lot of ice accumulation, we'll have a crew that goes out, tries to clean all that stuff up, put down sand, put down de-icer, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I think when you have services like that, the best advice I can give people is make sure you have firm footing. I broke 4 ribs in Houston, Texas during a snowstorm because I stepped out of my truck, the 6.7 liter twin turbo Power Stroke Ford F-250 Super Duty King Ranch Edition FX4 off-road package with roll tide on the front and back. That truck was named Frank after Frank James. And I stepped out in my cowboy boots, which are slick. And as soon as I put my foot down with weight bearing, what do you think happened? I fell, busted my ribs. I'm laying out there at 4 o'clock in the morning in a Denny's parking lot with my cowboy hat rolling around, Now, I guess they thought I was drunk.
Nobody wants to be in a Denny's parking lot at 4 o'clock in the morning, James, especially on your back.
Nobody helped me. They just walked by. They're like, what's going on with that dude? But it worked out. But hey, slip, trips, and falls, that is a hazard that we all, common sense hazard when it comes to dealing with the cold. Number 7,
right.
Hypothermia. Okay, hypothermia.
Your core temperature drops.
Yes, your temperature drops, not just the thermometer, yours. So I kind of put this with a buddy system. Several years ago, you live and learn, right? We had all these systems in place to account for workers, but I didn't have a system in place to account for our safety professionals who went into the field. Right? So you're always thinking about bringing others home safe, but I wasn't really thinking about my team coming home safe. So it's bitterly cold. They're out doing a job site inspection. I do have them in pairs, but these cats jump out of the truck with the truck running. They leave their cell phone. They leave their radio.
I've heard this story.
Inside the truck. And when they get out, one of them, out of habit, locks the door. And it didn't have that keyless entry, right? So all their communication devices are in the truck. And it is
there they sit.
And it's brutally cold. And they'd probably be dead if it hadn't been for one of their wives calling me and saying, hey, have you heard from XYZ? I said, nope. He said, well, he hadn't called me all day. Something's wrong. So I started calling around. Have you heard from my team? Nope. Well, can you check the GPS tracker on their truck? Yep. Oh, James, they've been stationary for like 6 hours at this one location. I said, man, send people out there to check on them. And when they got there, they were cold. And the sun was going down, and they were contemplating trying to walk 20 miles back to the shop because this is a remote area in the boonies of North Dakota. And they were all hugged up to each other, and they got to know each other really, really well. And fortunately, they got to be really good friends, Fortunately, they did not end up in a hypothermic situation. But the odds would have been
bad situation, good end to the story.
If she had not called, it could have ended up really, really bad. Frostbite, hypothermia, maybe even freezing to death. So have a plan for that. Education and training on recognizing the risk of hypothermia. What you should be doing as safety professionals, if you're going to have people working in extreme weather like that, that should be part of your policies and procedures.
Okay, number 8. What's your number 8, James?
Snow load on your structure. This is going to happen.
Your paper thin roofs down there in the south, they're going to be collapsing.
Look, man, we're prepared for 150-mile-an-hour hurricane winds, not 8 inches of snow up on your roof. Okay? So, that presents a risk, particularly when you're getting all this heavy snowfall. I mean, if you look at northern Louisiana and back toward into Texas, you're talking about 8 to 12 inches, 14 inches, maybe more than that. So that can put a very large load on structures, and in severe cases, it can cause roof collapse.
So out here, in the east, right, we've got our snow brooms and our snow shovels and all those things that we clear, load off a roof, but we also do have teams of people who rent themselves out to remove snow from roofs. So that takes us back to our fall protection issues. There are special things that you can get, special devices that you can get to remove snow from flat roofs outside of windows. They have window mounts and all kinds of things. So if you're in that situation that your company or your home or whatever requires that you go out on a roof or you reach out on a roof, make sure that you have that fall protection in place. So that you can remove it safely, right? A lot of times out here, we just remove it from the ground with a snow broom and be done with it.
Well, that's good to know because I don't care. James is not getting up on the roof with the
A
snow.
lot of
During the snow
companies do out
apocalypse,
here though,
mm-mm. But
especially our flat roofs.
leave that to the professionals. You know, again, we like to say this all the time. Hazards are best controlled in the planning of the work, right? For us, I don't know anybody anticipates large amounts of snow in our regions, but let's don't act like it's never happened before, and that it couldn't happen in the future. So it should be part of our emergency plan. Sooner or later, that snow is going to melt, right? Temperatures will go up. It'll start melting. You'll have refreeze potential. I'm sure other regions of the country see that. Then it refreezes, clogs up in your gutters and your drains and things of that nature. So have a plan, leave it to the professionals, make sure that if you're putting somebody up on top of the roof, that they have the proper fall protection necessary. Because look, what's up there? Snow, ice, all this stuff that's slippery. It's already a hazard. We're just increasing the hazard.
Every single one of the hazards we've already mentioned.
Absolutely.
Maybe with the exception of the FR clothing, but other than that, everything else. So
So number 9.
Number 9.
I'm going to quote our Lieutenant Governor, the great Governor Billy Nungesser. He's always on TV with hurricanes and floods. He said to the Weather Channel, "We don't know anything about snow. Hurricanes, floods, we can do. Stay at home. Stay at home. No matter where you are, when you have snow, you have fog, you have visibility issues." Now,
Inclement weather, if you don't have to go out, don't go out.
One of the worst wrecks in our part of the country that ever happened in the springtime with immense fog that came off Lake Pontchartrain. And I am fortunate I was not in that wreck. I was headed down to the city from the North Shore above Lake Pontchartrain to speak at a corporate event for Veriforce at the World War II Museum. And normally I go down Interstate 55 that goes between Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas. But it was foggy up here. And I was way early. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go across the causeway today. And I went left across the causeway. By the time I got to the causeway, the sun was coming up. They were shutting it down. We actually had a police escort across it. We go like 20 miles an hour. Had I been on I-55, I would have probably been involved with about a 70-car pileup. Bunch of people got killed. Cars went over the railing into the water. Why? No one could see. No one could see. So if you don't need to be out, don't be out. Don't be out.
I'm just going to echo that, James. Down by you, if you don't drive in snow, you shouldn't be driving in snow. We have a little difference in opinion there because here in the Northeast, you got to have about a foot of snow, maybe a little bit more for people to start thinking about not going out. I mean, we had 4, 5 inches, 6 inches this morning, and it was just a little bit of shovel to get in your car and light it up, and away we go. So just use common sense, right? If you're not used to it, if you don't have to go out, don't go out. Number 10.
Bacterial growth in cold weather. Okay, this kind of in your expertise of industrial hygiene, but you normally think about stuff during the summer season, the fall season, assuming your food supplies are good, foodborne illnesses and all. But hey, in the winter months, you still have that risk, right? So when we talk about food preparation and handling and storage practices, you need to practice those good hygiene practices even in the colder months, right?
Right. That's right.
So holiday parties, we got a Super Bowl fixing to come up. A lot of people outside preparing for the Super Bowl, which will be in New Orleans this year. Hey,
Hopefully it'll be warm
I hope so. I
or
hope so.
warmer.
I hope so. But people believe that low temperatures kills bacteria. But you still need
Not
to have
so.
your safe food preparation areas, segregating
If that
certain
were true,
food types.
James, not as many of us would be sick during this time of year.
That's a fact. That's a
That's a
fact.
fact.
That's
That's
a
a fact.
fact. So we listed our top 10 here over on my LinkedIn page. If you want to check it out, the top 10 most overlooked wintertime hazards. It's over there. It's posted. Again, that's just my opinion, but it's based on the article. Want to give credit where credit's due. That appeared in January's edition of Safety and Health, the 5 most overlooked wintertime hazards. We had just added some to that. And take a look.
And if you have more, go on over to James's page and put it in his chat.
If
Or
you
put it in
have
the chat of this
advice,
show.
let us know, because it looks like we're going to have a very wet winter.
So bring it on. Bring it on. Let us know if there are other ones that are on your list that aren't on our list. While you're going over to hit the like button and the subscribe button on our show on YouTube or on Spotify every Tuesday. When you get this, if you find something that we missed, let us know. There's comment sections. We do respond to comments, or go to our LinkedIn pages and reach out. So James, what say you?
Hey, thank you all for making this an outstanding podcast for everyone. We do it for you, the listeners. We thank Veriforce for powering this and all of our sponsors. If you are not familiar with this, your first time turning in, we've got 2 years worth of episodes. An episode drops every Tuesday throughout the calendar year, sometime around 12 or noontime Central Time. So on Veriforce's YouTube channel is the historic library of every episode we've ever done. And we're close to 80-something episodes. We'll do something special on our 100th, I'm sure. If you go back over to Spotify, you can also access that library. But we do it from you. We hope you'll join the conversation. Thank you for listening. Until next time, y'all keep bringing those workers home safe from high hazard jobs, and
Roll
roll
Tide.
Tide. Roll Tide. We're a basketball school, baby.